The words I should never have spoken. I did not mean to curse my son. That is the truth I live with every day. I was a tired woman that night. A broken woman. A mother who had reached the end of her patience and the edge of her fear. People like to imagine curses as dramatic things. Candles, whispers, dark rooms. But mine came out in the kitchen, under a flickering light, with a sink full of dishes and a heart full of disappointment. My son stood in front of me, taller than I remembered, eyes cold in a way I didn't recognize. He was 18. Angry. Certain he knew more about life than I ever could. You never did anything for me, he said. Those words hit harder than any slap. I had raised him alone. Worked 2 jobs. Missed meals so he wouldn't. Prayed over him while he slept. And still, that's what he believed. I remember gripping the edge of the counter, my knuckles white, my chest tight like it might split open. If you walk out that door with that hatred in your heart, I said, my voice shaking, may life teach you every lesson you refuse to learn from me. The room went silent. He stared at me like I was a stranger. Then he laughed. I'm not scared of your words, he said, grabbing his jacket. You don't control my life. And he left. The door slammed so hard a picture fell off the wall. I stood there alone, staring at the broken glass on the floor, not knowing that something far more fragile had shattered with it. I did not chase him. That was my second mistake. I told myself he needed space. That he would cool down. That boys always come back. But days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. And my son built a life that did not include me. Years passed. I watched him from a distance, through mutual friends, through whispers, through photos that never included my face. He went to college, got married, started a business. On the surface, he was successful. But there were cracks. His marriage never settled. His jobs never lasted as long as they should have. Every time he got close to stability, something fell apart. People said he was unlucky. I said nothing. But at night, alone in my bed, I wondered. When he finally came back to me, he was 42. And broken. He stood on my porch looking older than his years, shoulders slumped, eyes tired in a way no sleep could fix. Mom, he said quietly. Just one word. And suddenly, the years between us collapsed. I let him inside. He sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I had spoken those words decades ago. I don't know what's wrong with my life, he said. Every time I think things will work out, they don't. It's like something follows me. My hands trembled around my teacup. He looked at me then. Really looked. You said something the night I left, he continued. I didn't believe in that stuff back then. But now. He swallowed hard. I think it stayed with me. I did not deny it. That was my third mistake. Instead, I told him the truth. About the anger. The pain. The words I spoke without thinking they had weight. He went very still. You cursed me, he said. No, I whispered. I spoke from a wounded place. He stood up abruptly, chair scraping the floor. So all of this is your fault, he demanded. The accusation cut deep. I carried you for 9 months, I said softly. I carried you for 18 years. And I have carried regret for the rest of my life. He left again that night. But this time, something followed him more closely than ever. Because words spoken in pain don't disappear. They wait. They grow. And when a mother's sorrow goes unanswered, it doesn't fade. It echoes. When the signs began to speak. My son did not believe in signs. He believed in logic. In effort. In control. So when his life began to unravel again, quietly at first, he blamed everyone but himself. And certainly not me. It started with small things. The kind people dismiss. His new business partner disappeared with company funds. Not slowly. Not suspiciously. One morning the office door was locked, computers gone, phones disconnected, like the man had evaporated overnight. Then came the accident. A minor one, they said. A slip on wet stairs outside his apartment. But he broke his wrist in 2 places, and the doctor frowned longer than necessary at the X-ray. You heal slower than expected, the doctor said. My son laughed it off. But something in his eyes dimmed. His wife left him 6 months later. Not dramatically. No shouting. No accusations. She simply packed her bags while he was at work and left a note on the counter. I love you, but it feels like something dark follows you. And I'm tired of being afraid. That sentence haunted him. It should have. When the curse found its voice. My son stopped calling after that. Not because he was angry. Because he was afraid. I could hear it in his voice the last time we spoke. Thin, stretched tight, like a wire about to snap. Mom, he said, lowering his voice even though he was alone. Do you ever feel like something is watching your life? I closed my eyes. Because I had felt it too. The nightmares came first. He would wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing. The same dream repeating itself like a warning he couldn't escape. He stood at that old kitchen table, the one from his youth, while a shadow loomed behind him. Every time he turned around, the shadow grew taller, darker, heavier. And every time, it spoke in my voice. Not shouting. Not angry. Just tired. Life will teach you. He stopped sleeping. Then he stopped trusting his own mind. Strange things began happening around him. His car wouldn't start, but only on days he had something important planned. His phone would glitch during crucial calls, screens freezing, audio cutting out just as deals were about to close. Once, he swore he saw my reflection in a window across the street, standing still, watching him, only to blink and see nothing. He drove 3 hours to my house that night. He didn't knock. He just stood on the porch, hands shaking, like a child afraid to wake his mother from a bad dream. When I opened the door, he broke. I hear you, he said. Even when you're not there. I pulled him inside and held him like I hadn't since he was small. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. The curse had grown, not because I fed it, but because he believed in it now. Belief gives power to many things. Fear most of all. We sat at the kitchen table again. History repeating itself, but slower now. He stared at his hands, scarred, older, heavier than they should have been. I went to a therapist, he said quietly. She said it's stress, trauma, guilt. He laughed bitterly. But she doesn't know what I know. I didn't answer. Tell me the truth, he demanded. Do you think what you said that night followed me? The room felt colder. I think, I said carefully, that words spoken by a mother carry weight. Not magic. Responsibility. He looked up sharply. So it's not real? I met his eyes. It became real when you stopped believing you could outrun it. That made him angry. He stood up, pacing. So this is still my fault, he snapped. You speak death into my future, and now I'm supposed to fix it with positive thinking? No, I said firmly. You fix it by facing what you ran from. He froze. Which is? Me, I whispered. And yourself. That night, something changed. Not around him. Within him. For the first time in decades, my son stayed. He slept in his childhood room. Ate breakfast at my table. Walked the neighborhood like time had bent backward just enough to give him another chance. But curses don't disappear easily. They test resolve. And the real reckoning was still coming. The price the past demanded. Redemption does not arrive the way people expect. It doesn't come as forgiveness wrapped in warm words, or relief that settles gently on the shoulders. Redemption comes like a reckoning. It asks questions. It digs. It demands proof that you are no longer the person who caused the wound in the first place. My son believed that coming home was enough. I knew better. For the first few weeks, he tried to be good, helpful, present. He fixed the loose cabinet hinge, mowed the lawn without being asked, brought groceries home like offerings placed quietly at an altar. But goodness without truth is only performance. And the past is not fooled by performances. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. He had just returned from a job interview, hope flickering in his eyes for the first time in months, when his phone rang. I watched his face change as he listened. The color drained. His shoulders sagged, as if an invisible hand had pressed down on him. When he hung up, he didn't speak. He sat at the table, staring at nothing. "They're reopening the case," he said finally. "What case?" I asked, though something in my chest already knew. "The one from years ago. The partner who disappeared with the money." He swallowed. "They're saying I knew more than I admitted." I folded my hands. "Did you?" He hesitated. That hesitation told me everything. This was the truth he had never faced. Not the curse. Not my words. But the compromises he made when he thought no one was watching. Back then, when his partner suggested cutting corners, bending rules, letting things slide just this once, my son had stayed silent. Silence that protected him. Silence that cost someone else everything. "I didn't take the money," he said defensively. "But you let it happen," I replied gently. He looked at me like a child caught between shame and relief. "I was afraid," he whispered. "So was I said. "The night you left." That night, the dreams returned. But this time, the shadow did not speak in my voice. It spoke in his. He woke up screaming, clutching his chest like it might burst open. "I see it now," he said later, sitting on the edge of the bed, face buried in his hands. "Every time my life fell apart, it was after I avoided something. After I chose the easy way out." I said nothing. The past had begun collecting its payment. The following weeks were brutal. He testified. He answered questions he had buried for years. He admitted things he had never admitted even to himself. People he once blamed turned out to be mirrors. And slowly, painfully, something shifted. Not in the world. In him. One evening, as we sat together in silence, he spoke words I had waited decades to hear. "I forgive you," he said suddenly. I looked at him. "For what?" I asked. "For the words you said," he continued. "They didn't ruin my life. They warned me." Tears filled my eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you," I whispered. "I know," he said. "You wanted me to grow. But forgiveness alone does not end a curse. Action does." And the final act had not yet been done. The sacrifice that broke the chain. The curse did not loosen all at once. It resisted. Like a knot that tightens when pulled too quickly, it seemed to test us, waiting to see whether our remorse was temporary, whether our courage would falter the moment sacrifice became uncomfortable. I learned something then. The past does not ask for punishment. It asks for truth made visible. The letter arrived on a Monday morning. No return address. Thick paper. My son's name written carefully on the front. He stared at it for a long time before opening it, as if some part of him already knew what it would demand. Inside was a summons. Not from a court. From a man. A man my son hadn't spoken to in nearly 20 years. The partner who had taken the fall. The one whose life collapsed while my son walked away shaken, but free. "I don't understand," my son said, voice unsteady. "I thought he disappeared." "He didn't," I replied softly. He was buried alive by silence. The meeting was set for the following week. A small cafe near the edge of town. Neutral ground. Somewhere no one expected forgiveness to bloom. The night before, my son barely slept. Not from fear of confrontation, but from the weight of a decision he had avoided for decades. "Mom," he said just before dawn, "what if I ruin what little I have left?" I took his hands in mine. "Then you will finally have something real," I said. The man was already seated when we arrived. Older. Thinner. Eyes sharp with survival, not hope. He looked at my son like one looks at a ghost, something familiar that should not exist. They spoke quietly at first. Then more openly. Then painfully. My son confessed everything. The silence. The cowardice. The choice to protect himself at someone else's expense. "I didn't steal," he said. "But I let you be destroyed." The man laughed bitterly. "That was worse," he replied. Then came the sacrifice. Not demanded. Chosen. My son offered restitution. Not just money, but testimony. Public acknowledgement. The truth on record, even if it damaged what remained of his reputation. "I don't want to outrun this anymore," he said. "I want to end it." The man studied him for a long time. Then nodded. Something strange happened after that. Not immediately. But quietly. The nightmares stopped. The constant tension in my son's shoulders eased. The air around him felt lighter. As if something that had been gripping him had finally loosened its hold. That night, he slept peacefully for the first time in years. And for the first time since that long-ago argument in my kitchen, I felt the weight lift from my own chest. The curse had never been about punishment. It had been about unfinished truth. And truth, once paid for honestly, does not linger. When the curse finally let go, the curse did not break with thunder. There were no visions. No sudden miracles. No moment where the sky opened and declared us free. It broke the way most deep things do. Quietly. Gently. Almost unnoticed, until we realized it was gone. The first sign was ordinary. My son laughed. Not politely. Not carefully. He laughed the way he used to as a boy, head thrown back, unguarded, surprised by his own joy. It startled me. I stood in the doorway, watching him talk with the neighbor, the sound of his laughter floating through the yard like something that had been missing for years. And in that moment I knew. The shadow had left him. Life did not suddenly become perfect. That is not how healing works. But things stopped fighting him. A job offer came, not glamorous, not powerful, but honest. Work that asked for his hands and his integrity, not shortcuts or silence. He took it gratefully. Relationships softened. Conversations lasted longer. People stayed. Even his body changed. Sleep returned, appetite followed, color came back to his face. The curse had not ruined his life. Fear had. And fear had finally lost its grip. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sun dip low, my son spoke words that closed a circle I thought would remain open forever. "Mom," he said quietly, "I don't think you cursed me." I didn't answer. "I think your words woke something up in me," he continued. "Something I kept running from. Responsibility. Truth." He looked at me then, eyes clear. And when I stopped running, it couldn't follow me anymore. Tears slid down my cheeks. Not from guilt. From release. Before he left to begin his new life, this time without ghosts, he hugged me tightly. "I'm not afraid anymore," he said. Neither was I. If you're listening to this story right now, I want you to hear this clearly. Words matter. Silence matters. And unfinished truths have a way of demanding attention. But nothing, no curse, no mistake, no past, has more power than accountability. What follows us is rarely magic. It is memory. It is avoidance. It is the weight of what we refuse to face. And the moment we do, it lets us go. So tell me, where are you watching from? And have you ever carried something for years, only to realize it was waiting for you to set it down? If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Because healing doesn't come from running. It comes from turning around and finally telling the truth.